Americans. And those were prophetic words. A few years ago, we had the privilege to receive his son and the members of the US Congress, including the only surviving of the Big Five who led the march on Washington. It was the work of these great people here, the struggle here, which ensured a change which only America is capable of. Truly a melting pot of civilizations. And who alone can recognize but a mother country of civilization which is acknowledged as the cradle? That's the Republic of India. And it was that we saw this beautiful and remarkable achievement 3 years ago. I'm not subscribing to ideologies, but applauding the wisdom and maturity of this country when they elected one of those as the president of the most powerful country in this world today. One has to recognize the import and the message which this country gave to the rest of the world, particularly when there were issues, some of which I referred to, which contribute to division, conflict, particularly the philosophy of bigotry and hatred. And that's something which we need to remember always in our daily lives, whatever we do, whichever field we are engaged in, that to ensure that our words and our actions contribute in creating a better, a more humane order which we leave collectively as a legacy for the future generations. Very few people recognize that 9/11 is also very important for India. 9/11, 1907, was the day when Gandhi launched his first satyagraha from Johannesburg in South Africa. 9/11, 1893 was the day when a great son of India, Swami Vivekananda, gave that famous speech in Chicago. Those of you who have read the speech, a very empowering one. We were saying today to the Mayor, Ram Emanuel, that in 2013, it will be the 150th anniversary which America and India should jointly celebrate and commemorate. But there is a difference between the three dates as to what they mean to humankind. I know the Chambers of Commerce and Industry do work to promote entrepreneurship, businesses, but also reflect on the society that we live in. The world is ever changing. There's a different America many of you came to. It was a different India, struggling after its independence to find its feet, its direction. It's good that the founding fathers of the Indian Republic decided on equality to make India a parliamentary democracy where Indian people could decide what path they want the country to move on. It was truly empowering at that time because there were very few countries, even in Europe, which had given adult franchise to both men and women. India did that. India has done much more. But if the world has changed, from the print media to the electronic media, to countries which are ever in search of new technologies for the benefit of those who inhabit the planet Earth, but also it has changed for the betterment. This country is a knowledge-led society with a great record accomplishments in creating institutions of excellence, in investing in institutions, and therefore, irrespective of the ups and downs, the United States of America will always remain a global leader. But at the same time, changes have swept the world. Who could have thought that we live in a world which is called globalized, interconnected, interdependent? We share our vision and our opportunities, but in an interdependent world, things move very fast, faster than aeroplanes. At the press of a button, knowledge and information travels from one corner to the other corner of the world. People communicate with each other through internet. Children use these technologies for their betterment. Same is the flow of capital. But that's not all. Challenges also travel that fast. Threats to the world order travel with the same speed. Epidemics travel with the same pace. We have seen that during the period of global crisis, the financial crisis, followed by the worst economic crisis the world has seen after the Great Depression of the 1930s. We have to draw lessons. The world economy has not recovered. But the changes are there. All countries which were affected were not similarly affected. Adversely they were. But many countries and economies rebounded, returning to high growth trajectories. India is one of those fortunate countries. We also slipped. We were also affected. We came down from over 9% continuous GDP growth for 5 consecutive years to less than 7%. And we returned close to 9. There may be some slip-ups, but we'll definitely keep on growing at over 8.5%. And I'm confident that we all will see India moving up to double-digit growth. That's one of the most important change that the world has seen. Similar changes are taking place in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America. Many of the countries in Africa are registering robust growth. ASEAN is a vibrant region. When Mr. Mago was reading that we have reached out to the world, building bridges, forging partnership agreements, free trade agreements, particularly at a time when the wisdom was questioned, when there was a natural tendency for countries to look inwards and to go as it has happened in the past. It has happened here too, protectionism. I have always been of this view that when times are tough, you need to show courage, step out and engage with others. Don't erect protective barriers around you, because protectionism can only delay the recovery, deepen the recession, and is always counterproductive. It doesn't help. But we have also seen that this change is redefining the global economic architecture, not political. The equilibrium is shifting, if it has not already shifted. Today, more than half of the global economic growth is coming from Asia. 2/3 of the output, economic output, is coming from what are referred to as the developing countries. I was saying in the morning to captains of American industry, 2 years from now, the economies of Asia, Europe, and America will be equal sized in 2 years. In a decade, of the first 5 economies of the world, 3 will be from Asia. China, India, and Japan. These are the realities of today's world, which cannot be changed, which have to be accepted. So when we engage with our partners, we engage in a spirit of respect, but also with confidence. Today's India is not the India which many of you lived. Today's India is an aspirational country, a country which believes we are a young republic. 64 years in the life of a country is not enough. We recognize the immense challenges that we still have. We have grappled with monumental ones after our independence, building institutions, creating human resources. Those who came, the great minds, came out of those institutions. Today, India has the resources. We are doubling the institutions. More than the IITs and the IIMs, which were created 5 decades ago, India is building now. The institutes of science, if we had one mega university, the 5 more are coming up. Those of you who came out of those institutions and traveled to distant shores, today young Indians have enough opportunities. If they travel to create opportunities to work in other countries, including this great friend of ours, they are also creating opportunities back home. America and India, for a long time, in the global order that emerged after the Second World War, didn't engage as great democracies. So this country was one which recognized India's yearning for freedom and supported India's freedom struggle, which we must acknowledge, and we always have. But it was a long period in history because of reasons which are well documented. It's like talking to each other but not listening to each other, like ships, great ships, cross the ocean in darkness, not looking genuinely at what that means. That has changed. I'm all right. Today, America and India are engaged in a partnership which is strategic. When President Barack Obama was in India less than a year ago, he did say that this partnership will be a defining one in the 21st century. And I believe in that. Not many, but most of us do. As great democracies with shared values and commitments, with our comparative strengths and advantages, with our vast human resources and intellect, the capacity to innovate, capacity to assimilate technologies, which today India has, and America is a global leader. So what will underpin this partnership is not only the cultural exchange, not only the understanding between the political leaders, but also an embrace of all those sectors which define and justify the use of the word strategic partnership, from space science to nuclear science, from education to agriculture. It's a vast field, and we are engaged in each one of them. But also in assimilating cutting-edge technologies and together developing new technologies which will define the new global order when we grapple with many a challenge which the world faces. That's what we are seeking to do together. And here I have to mention, there are many fields, but energy security is important, so is food security. And this country recognized the value of investing in a partnership with India, a country which is a mature democracy with impeccable credentials and record. When we negotiated the Civilian Nuclear Energy Cooperation Agreement and India returned to the global mainstream, that was a defining moment in July 2008 Mr. Mago, you, many of the Indian diaspora campaigned and lobbied with the congressman at the Hill that the time has come for them to shed any reservations, inhibitions, and embrace a country which has all the promise for the future. We acknowledge United States of America, wisdom, its steadfast support, and the people of India will always appreciate that.